Welcome back. It is no longer a pregnancy update.
No.
We had a baby girl, and her name is Magnolia Lynn. She was born on Tuesday night at 11:42 p.m. She came in like a wrecking ball.
On her due date.
On her due date.
February 2nd.
We'll get to the story in a little bit.
And that's a small percentage. I just want people to know, like, from whatever.
5 to 10%.
5 to 10% of babies are born on their due date. It's not common, and we're still a little shocked.
Yeah. So we're home, as you can see.
Today's Thursday, the 4th.
Today's Thursday, the 4th.
But she's not here.
Yeah, she's not here.
So we're going to give you a little update on her, and then we'll tell you our crazy story.
Yes.
So you can tell them all about where she is and why.
Okay. So she's still at the hospital. She's in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. She's fine. We're not worried about anything. The main reason that she's there right now is because of her blood sugar.
Because of me.
Right.
And my gestational diabetes. She's having to adjust to not be in my sugar-induced body, I guess.
So basically, they have her on an IV drip of 10% dextrose. So they're adding sugar in, and as she's feeding, they're able to wean her off of that excess sugar until her body regulates where it should be. Mm-hmm. And then once that's done, we'll be able to take her home.
Yeah. She also had a couple other things.
Right, but then, we can get into that story with the birth story and everything else, because that kind of ties in with that.
Yeah.
This was extra that we knew about, but didn't realize it was going to be so much more involved afterwards.
Right. So we did not expect her to come on February 2nd.
If you're following the Almost Daily Des on Instagram, which you should be, you would already know that her story on the 2nd said, I am feeling great. I am absolutely not having a baby today.
Because, like, when it comes to your due date, it really is a guesstimate. It is not a very accurate thing. It's just like, hey, be ready around this time. And I had so many people, like, texting me and messaging me, like, do you have contractions? Are you in labor? Happy due date? And, like, I wasn't, like, annoyed, but it was just, like, I literally felt completely normal. Like, I was like, no, like, she's not coming today. There's nothing going on. I felt, like, great that day. I wasn't even having, like, a super off day where I felt, like, crappy. And I was texting with my friend Jackie, and she was so shocked because she texted me at 7:30 p.m. and was like, are you in labor? And I was like, no, like, nothing's going on. But we were just watching TV. We were watching Below Deck. And it was, like, right around 9 o'clock, like, the show ended. And I was like, well, I guess we'll just go to bed because it's 9 o'clock and whatever. So at, like, 9:15, I got up from this spot and went to the hallway to walk into the bedroom. And mind you, I was fine this whole time. And then I got to the hallway, and I had a contraction, like, so intense that it stopped me from walking. Like, I couldn't walk while the contraction was happening, and he's out here, like, shutting lights off, and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I think I just have some gas. And, like, I 100% knew I didn't. And then, like, I went to walk again and very quickly got another one, and he's like, yeah, I don't think gas would prevent you from walking, like, you can't walk. And I was like, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm just going to go lay down. And then when I got into the bedroom, I had another contraction. So these contractions were about 2 minutes apart.
Yeah, they started out at 2 minutes.
And then it went to, like, 3 minutes. It was teetering between 2 and 3. But when I got to the bedroom and got another one, I was like, okay, that was 3 in a row. And they were strong. I remember being in labor before, and I remember contractions starting and being inconsistent, like, between, like, a 7 and 10 minute mark, and then getting closer together, and they weren't as intense. So, like, I knew, I had a feeling that this was different.
Just like the whole rest of the pregnancy.
Yeah. So once I had, like, 3 or 4 in a row, I was like, I had already looked at my phone, and I knew that they were 2 minutes apart, but I was like, let me write this down because these are really close together. But like, so I know sometimes you can get like flukes where like you might get some and then like, and it'll just stop. Like an hour will go by, nothing will happen. So I didn't want to jump the gun. Lou was already in bed. I called my mom and I'm like, you know, I think that I might be having contractions that like we might have to like do something about. And she's like, okay, like, you know, what's going on? And I was like, yeah, so I'm having contractions that are like 2 to 3 minutes apart. And she's like, what? And she's like, okay, well, like, I'll just come there. She's already in bed. Like, let's not wake her up. So she's like, I am just grabbing my stuff and I'll be there. So as we're waiting for, mind you, my mom lives about 20 minutes away, but we also had a snowstorm that day. So like the commute was a little bit longer, but I figured, well, I'll just keep tracking while she's on her way. I FaceTimed my friend Candace and she's like, you need to go. You need to go now. And then she was like timing how long my contractions were because if you're in like active labor, they should be anywhere from 30 to 70 seconds. So like when I would get a contraction, she was like hitting her timer and they were above 30 seconds. So she's like, you are in labor, like you need to go. And I'm like, are you sure? Like I was just so nervous that I was like, because it just happened so fast. I'm like, I don't want to be dramatic and like get there. And then they're like, girl, like you're fine, like go home. So my mom gets here and we leave. And we live how like 30 minutes from the hospital.
Yeah, about 25, 30 minutes.
So like halfway there, they started to get more intense, like more painful to the point that like my legs were shaking. And I was like, oh, I remember this. And this is not good. And I'm like, listen, I know the roads are like kind of bad and I don't want you to drive unsafely, but like we need to get there because I remember this point in my contractions and like the pushing came shortly after this.
That was the point at which you said, oh, I think I'm going to want an epidural.
Last time, which I couldn't get.
Which you couldn't get because it was too late.
Yeah.
So I remember that time, and I remember
and he saw my legs
how soon after
getting
that.
Like jittery. So we were pulling into the parking lot at 10:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And we got into the triage, and she's like, I'm just going to hook you up and see what's going on. I told her, she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm having contractions that are like 2 to 3 minutes apart. She was like, 2 to 3 minutes apart? Okay, like, let's hook you up. We'll see what's going on. She hooks me up, and she's like, whoa, mama, you're having like monster contractions. And I was like, mm-hmm. So she's like, okay, I'm going to get the midwife in, whatever. And then another girl came in to do like intake or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
and at that point, if I was getting a contraction, I was to the point where you physically can't talk. So if you've had contractions and you know that point, like where you cannot communicate through a contraction. So she looks at me, she's like, I just have some questions. And I'm like, you need to ask him because I couldn't speak. So the midwife comes in, she's like, I'm just going to check you out, see what's going on. As soon as she went in, my water broke. And she's like, I'm so sorry. Because if you had that happen too, you know, your contractions start to get like really intense after the water breaks. And she's like, we're at 9. And then she's dancing. She's like, we're at 9. It's go time. Like she's all excited. I was at 9 centimeters walking into the hospital. Now, I don't understand how I was at 9 centimeters and had no clue and didn't feel anything prior. I just still don't know how that happened. Like, I'm still very confused about the whole thing because I literally felt not just fine, but like I felt great that day. I didn't have pressure. I didn't have Braxton Hicks contractions. I just was like living my life like a normal day. So she said that the baby was still up a little bit. So she's like, can you walk to the room? We're going to get you set up. And I was like, I mean, I'll try. And she's like, it's only like 2 doors away. And I was like, okay. So Steve had to like help me walk over there. And when we got in there, what did the nurse say about everyone getting ready when she told them like, oh, it's go time?
She told them that they were at 9 centimeters and everybody kind of threw everything they were doing up in the air and started running around with their hands up in the air.
Which is hilarious. I just thought of Sims. Like, if you ever play The Sims, you know, when like there's a fire or like someone's in labor and they start panicking. That's like what everybody was doing. So they get me in the room and it was like
It literally was like that. She was
It
in the
was so
bed.
fast. Like
There
I
was a
had,
nurse on one side doing an
yeah, a nurse
IV.
doing IV here, a nurse taking blood here. Then this nurse, after she took the blood, was like, "I have to do your COVID test," and she's like, "It's gonna be uncomfortable. I am so sorry, but I have to do this." And then she's like swabbing up my nose, and the nurse to my left that was doing my IV was like, I know you're getting contractions. If you get a contraction where it feels like pushing and you cannot reel it in and like you cannot control the pushing, you need to tell me. So right after she said that, I had one contraction prior to that in the room, and that's when she was waiting to test me for COVID because she was like, "I'm gonna wait until your contraction is done because this is uncomfortable and that's uncomfortable, and I don't want to like do that to you." And then after she said that to me, the next contraction I got was a pushing contraction that I could not control. So I said to her, "I'm having a pushing contraction that I cannot control," and she's like, "Oh," and
then everything else, everybody started moving much faster.
the midwife is like trying to get her
She's
clothes
getting her
on,
booties
and
on, and
they're
she's
trying to
getting
get
ready.
this bed set up. And so that was at like 11:30 that they were rushing to get this bed and everything. And I started pushing at 11:35, and she was born at 11:42. Like Steve said, I did like 8 pushes, and it was like very fast. Like with Lou, I felt like the pushing was a little bit more relaxed. Like they would wait for me to get a contraction. I would push through the contraction, and then they would make me lay back and relax until my body got another contraction to push. This time they were making me push whether I was contracting or not. They were like getting her the hell out of there. Yeah. And I felt her head come out, and then we like stopped, right? That was the point that they like stopped. Her cord was wrapped.
Her cord was wrapped.
So just like Lou's was.
Cord. And then we did another push, and she didn't move. So then the doctor
budging.
kind of was holding the head. I thought this was crazy because I'd never seen them like move a baby this way. And she's like moving the head, like trying to wiggle this baby out.
And that was the point that she was debating whether to cut me or not, right?
Yes. So she stopped doing that, and then it was.
You can tell this part because I don't remember that really.
Okay. So after that, it was pretty much one last push. So she's moving this baby around. She stops and she looks back at her like little setup of tools or whatever, and then she looks down and she says, "No, Mama, you got to push harder. We need this baby out right now."
She didn't want to cut me,
so
and I guess she just thought I could do it.
Same
I didn't
thing.
get cut
She
last
grabbed
time.
the head and she pushed and she went wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
She said,
pop,
"You need to push like you want this
right
baby out now. Just push, push, push," and that's what I did.
So
I just pushed as hard as I could.
And that's what was stuck was the shoulders. So then she came flying right out.
I like your sound effect.
Well, that's kind of what it sounds like, followed by a gush of amniotic fluid.
Yeah. So, because of that, her collarbone, right?
Her right collarbone
is fractured. So, they're keeping her arm, like, she's not, like, wrapped or anything. They just have the blanket swaddled with her arm down. And also, when she came out, she was having, what do they call it, like, labor?
Respiratory distress.
Yeah.
Which is basically a transitional period.
It was so fast. So I think
birth to breathing air.
I think her and I both were in shock.
Yeah. She still had fluid and, like, mucus and amniotic fluid in her lungs that it was kind of gurgly, so they had to work with her to get that out. They wound up putting her on a bubbling CPAP machine, which pushes air into the lungs to force that fluid out, like into the body naturally, and just do it quicker.
The baby nurse, he was so
sweet. super
he was
nice,
so calm,
very explanatory, telling me everything that was going on. I never felt worried or
his demeanor was so calm. But she wasn't on the respiratory stuff very long. So, we were getting moved to our regular room around 2, and they took us to go see her because they gave her to me really quickly and then took her away because they needed to work on her a little bit. But they wanted to make sure that we saw her before we went to our room. So she was hooked up then at like 2 a.m. and then we went back like a couple hours later in the morning, and she was still hooked up, but she sounded so much better.
Right.
Like
sounded a lot more clear.
And if she would like cry a little bit, it didn't sound as bubbly. And then
the second bubbles at that point
because she was having some bubbles. And then the second time we went back, she was off of that stuff, and then it was just monitoring the sugar from that point on.
So she was born within an hour and hour and a half
total of labor.
So from 9:16 to 11:42 was a total span
Yeah.
of labor.
And the pushing was 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept looking
so, like I said, she came in like a wrecking ball.
Yes. And I just kept saying to Steve, like, we're just, because they make you sit in that room for about 2 hours before you can move because they have to keep checking you and, you know. I just was like, I don't know what happened. Like, I can't believe she was born. I can't believe I'm done. That's what I kept saying. Like, listen, I would do it like that again a million times because I feel like I skipped. Like, the contractions were intense, but like with Lou, I remember being in intense contractions for like 2 hours. Yeah. And I thought Lou's labor was quick and seamless.
For a first pregnancy and you're done in 4 hours, that's seamless.
Yeah, and I remember like those contractions where I felt like I was dying were only happening from triage to the other room. Like, I probably had, I don't know, 6 of them. Where with Lou before, it was like 2 hours of that almost.
Right. Yeah, it was a while.
Yeah, and then
you were like crawling backwards up the bed.
I had, yeah. Well, I was doing that in the triage room too. I was like kind of holding the wall, and then I had one like that in the room, the labor and delivery room, where I kind of held the side and was like, oh, I don't like this one. But then the next one was pushing, and that was that.
And that was it. That's the story.
It is weird, I have to say, to have a baby like in NICU because like
we didn't even tell them the weird thing about the fractured collarbone.
Oh yeah.
So,
you tell them.
I don't know if anybody's ever had or heard of a baby having this issue, but it's probably very uncommon. But the weird thing is that my left collarbone was fractured during birth.
So she's got Steve's big shoulders, I guess.
So we both have big shoulders.
But I do want to say too, like the nurses were so funny, even the midwife, like because the one nurse to my left kept saying to me like, are you sure you don't want to have any more kids? Like, we will take you back anytime. Like, you are welcome to come here anytime. Like, they kept saying, like, you were made to just push babies out. And, like, it's a shame because I probably am that person that should have, like, 10 babies. I just don't want to because I don't like being pregnant and the unpredictability of my body and getting pregnant. But, like, for some reason, that birthing process is, like, really easy for me. Like, even today, the whole time I'm there, they're like, do you want Motrin? Do you need anything? I was like, no, fine.
They had to force her to take it because it was in her discharge paperwork.
Yeah, I had to take 2 Motrin before I left. and I'm like, if you want me to take it, I will, but I don't need it. And then she's like, all right, we'll wheel you down. And I'm like, I can walk down. And she's like, no, we have to. Like, okay, whatever. But it just feels weird to, like, be in the room without the baby. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what's better because like I missed her when we weren't there, but at the same time like we actually got to sleep. Mm-hmm. So we're not as tired as like with Lou. That whole time I slept maybe 45 minutes and came home like a zombie.
It's probably also a different feeling because when parents usually have children in the NICU,
it's like
an issue. There's something
problem.
That there is really something to worry about.
Right.
Our situation, we're lucky that. It's really not a situation to worry about. It's minor, and it's just something that they have to do as part of procedure.
Yeah. But everybody, like, was so great. Like, every nurse, every doctor, everyone in the NICU. Yeah. Like, we didn't really have to ask any questions to anybody.
Kudos to Atlantic Care for excellent team and people that work there.
I mean, every time we, like, went to see her, they just filled us in on anything that we had missed, like, from the time before. And we didn't, like, they'd be like, do you have any questions for us? And we're like, no. Like, they just answered everything. But yeah, I mean, that's it. I am completely fine. Like, I feel good. I don't feel like I just birthed the baby. I just feel a little uncomfortable. And she seems to be doing well. So we are hoping maybe tomorrow. They were able to bump her down like 1 number this morning. So we're hopefully, if she can keep up the good work, hopefully they'll be able to continue lowering her dextrose, and we'll see. So we are hoping that she comes home tomorrow. Lou is like dying to meet her. She's FaceTimed, and she just wants me to like hold the phone pointing at the baby while she just talks the whole time, and the baby's like asleep. But
we will be doing I'm sure, coming home
family vlog. We're definitely going. I want to get her like on video meeting her for the first time because like that'll be a good memory for them to have. So
we don't just do this vlogging thing for us. We kind of are doing it for our kids.
Yeah.
Because
Lou loves it.
You know, remember when you were a kid and you had the VHS camcorder tapes and you know, you
Like
really only
Christmas
got
morning.
it pulled out at like Christmas or a
Yeah,
special
birthday
time.
party.
But with us doing this and we're documenting like our whole life, like our kids are going to be able to grow up and see their birth and the story of their birth and all these vacations and fun things that you don't really get to
sometimes
remember
your memories are like, you think you remember stuff, but then you realize you just remember the pictures.
Yeah.
Like your memories or whatever the pictures were. But like with Lou, like when she watches stuff back, her memories of everything are so vivid because she can watch it and like really remember it, not just by a still image.
Then she'll remember other stuff that happened.
Like after that, it just connects everything more.
Wasn't on video.
And I do want to say too that we were planning on filming some of our labor.
We were trying. We were gonna.
That was our goal, to at least
even something in the car,
at least
like
just
a
say like
vlog. But there was no.
We were. I mean, I was definitely. My mom said throw a couple towels in the car.
I still have them in the car
just in case. And I mean, if we had left I don't know, 5 minutes later, we might not have made it because I don't
know if I would have stopped driving though.
I
don't know if I would have stopped driving until there was a head coming out. I was getting as close to that hospital as possible.
I was nervous walking in.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was cutting it close. I never understood how somebody could have like a baby at home. And I get it now because if I had second guessed anything anymore, which I already was, it was you and my mom and Candace telling me like you gotta go. In my mind, I'm like, I think I can just lay down for a little bit at least and see.
Take a nap.
I just really thought it was a fluke. I thought it was gonna stop. And if I had dilly dallied anymore, like I'm getting dressed on the phone and Candace is like, "Why are you getting dressed? Just leave. Like who cares?" And I'm like, "No, it's okay. I have time." Like, but I didn't. So I don't understand how you can be in like full blown like active labor going into delivery that fast, but apparently it can happen. So
you got to be ready for anything.
If you get contractions and they're 2 minutes apart, just leave.
Go.
At least go and be wrong.
Yeah.
And let them send you home because, you know, I just never thought that that's what was going to happen. So that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. We will make sure that we update to like how she's doing and coming home.
Well, if you want an update, you can follow the Almost Daily Des on Instagram.
That's true.
Or on Facebook.
True. Because I have been putting some stuff on my stories.
You will get up to the minute updates.
Yeah. But that's all. Just a, you know, crazy birthing video.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
I'd love to share it and
I can't wait till like she hears it, like when she's like Lou's age, where she understands. Because Lou like has asked questions about her own.
Yeah. Well, she'll get to hear it and she'll get to watch it.
Yeah. But that's it. Thank you so much for caring. I've gotten so many messages that are like so sweet. So thank you everybody for like the congratulations and like checking in. But thanks. That's all. Bye.
Bye.